Okay, so you know how everyone loves talking about the weather? Oh, this is kind of like that. But for the bedroom,
Oh,
yeah, we're diving into how to spice things up in the intimacy department.
I like it.
And honestly, it's not just about the fun factor, although that's definitely a bonus.
Right.
It's actually super important for like your overall well-being and relationships.
It really is.
And the cool thing is you guys sent in a bunch of interesting stuff for us to dig into this time.
Oh, yeah.
We've got articles from like the medical experts over at WebMD and HIMSS,
Okay.
some relationship advice from marriage.com and Mind Body Green. Those are always interesting.
Yeah, they are.
And then, just to keep things extra real, we even snuck a peek at a Reddit thread.
Ooh, a Reddit thread juicy.
Don't worry, it's all anonymous, but let me tell you, people had some thoughts.
I bet they did. What kind of stuff were they saying?
Well, we'll get into that, but first, I think it's important to acknowledge that talking about sex can still feel kind of taboo.
You really can.
Like we're so open about everything else these days, but this topic, it's still hush-hush.
It's true. And it shouldn't be because it affects so many parts of our lives.
Exactly. And,
Yeah.
when we treat it like this forbidden thing, it's easy to end up neglecting it.
Absolutely. Life gets in the way, routines set in.
Totally.
Yeah.
And suddenly, date night looks more like takeout menus on the couch than, anything else. Right. It happens to the best of us.
But just like you make time for exercise or healthy eating, making an effort for your intimate life can have huge benefits.
It's true. And one of the articles, I think it was from HIMSS, actually mentioned that over 15% of men, get this, aged 18 to 89,
Wow, that's a wide range.
right, hadn't had sex in the past year.
Really?
Yeah. And the point isn't to make anyone feel bad, because honestly, there are tons of reasons why that might be the case.
Of course. Everyone's different.
Exactly. But I think it's important to know you're not alone if you're, looking to improve things in the bedroom.
Absolutely. And even small changes can make a big difference.
That's why I always say small steps.
Exactly. Like, think about it like going to the gym.
Okay. Yeah.
You wouldn't expect to bench press your body weight on the very first try.
No way. I can barely lift my cat on the first try.
Exactly. It's about starting where you are and gradually building up.
Makes sense.
And it's interesting when you think about the science behind it all, right?
Oh, tell me more.
Well, orgasms release this hormone called oxytocin. And oxytocin has been linked to all sorts of good stuff like stress reduction.
Oh, I like the sound of that.
Right. And better sleep, improved mood. It's like a natural mood booster.
Sign me up. So basically, prioritizing your sex life is self-care.
Exactly. It's about taking care of your physical and emotional well-being.
I love that. Permission to get busy, it's for your health.
Exactly. But where do we start? Several sources like Mind Body Green, they really stress communication is key.
Oh, communication, that's a big one.
Huge. And we saw this echoed a lot in that Reddit thread, too.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. People were getting real about how important it is to talk to your partner.
It makes sense, though. How can you improve things if you're not on the same page?
Exactly. It's about understanding each other's needs, boundaries, desires, even those fantasies you keep hidden.
Oh, yeah, the fantasies. Speaking of which, this one comment from the Reddit thread really stuck with me.
Go on.
So this person was saying how their wife had a medical issue that got resolved.
Okay.
And afterwards, her libido went through the roof.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And it led them to explore, well, let's just say they're having a very interesting time now.
That's fascinating. And it really highlights how life events, especially things that involve physical or emotional changes, they can really impact intimacy.
It's true. It's not always just about, what's happening in the bedroom.
Exactly. Sometimes it's about what's going on outside the bedroom that can affect things, too.
So true. And you know what? That reminds me of something else we came across about talking to a therapist.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the HIMSS article specifically mentioned that if you're facing challenges in this area, it might be helpful to talk to a professional.
It makes a lot of sense. It's like seeking guidance from a trainer for your fitness goals.
Right. Like you wouldn't be afraid to ask for help if you're trying to get in shape.
Exactly. And therapists can provide a safe space, no judgment to talk about these things.
I think that's important because so many people view therapy as this big, scary thing.
I know, but it can be incredibly helpful.
So we've established that communication is key.
Yes.
But how do you even start those conversations?
Well,
Like where do you even begin?
well, WebMD actually had a great suggestion.
Oh, do tell.
They recommended checking out this thing called the yes, no, maybe list.
The yes, no, maybe list. What is that?
It's from this website called Sex with Emily, and it's basically a list of different intimate activities.
Okay.
And you and your partner, you each go through it and mark whether you're interested, not interested, or open to trying.
Oh, that's kind of fun. Like a sexy choose your own adventure.
Exactly. It takes the pressure off having to come up with ideas on the spot, and it can lead to some really interesting discoveries.
I bet. Learning something new about your partner and maybe even yourself.
Precisely. It's about exploring and keeping things exciting.
Less pressure, more fun. I like it.
Exactly. And remember, communication isn't just limited to the bedroom.
That's true.
That Mind Body Green article, they really emphasize that connecting with your partner outside the bedroom is super important for intimacy overall.
It's about fostering that connection in all areas of your relationship,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. It's like, remember those early days of dating when everything was new and exciting?
Oh man, the early days. Those were the days. You know what? Speaking of which, that reminds me of this one time back when my partner and I first started dating. We were at this like totally packed farmer's market. And I don't know, I grabbed their hand and pulled them into this little nook between two stalls.
Oh, I love that.
And it felt so, I don't know, adventurous. Even though we were surrounded by like organic kale and those fancy scented soaps.
It's about those little moments that break the routine.
Totally. And it didn't require like planning a whole big elaborate date night or anything.
Exactly. Sometimes the simplest things are the most effective.
Right. Little things,
Yeah.
big impact.
Exactly. Which actually reminds me of a comment from that Reddit thread we talked about.
Oh yeah, what was it?
So this one user, they were saying how trying something new with their partner really helped.
Okay, like what? Give me an example.
Like taking golf lessons together or maybe dance classes.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So it's not even necessarily about like spicing things up in the bedroom directly.
Exactly. It's about building that connection and having fun together outside the bedroom, too.
Right, because when you think about it, those shared experiences, they create memories, inside jokes.
Exactly. And all that positive energy can definitely spill over into the bedroom.
So it's like approaching intimacy as something you build together.
Exactly. And that reminds me of that whole concept of spiritual sex that Mind Body Green talked about.
Oh yeah, what was that all about again?
It's not about religion or anything, but more about like being present and mindful during intimacy,
Oh, I get it.
really taking the time to connect with your partner on a deeper level.
So it's not just like a physical act. It's about creating a whole experience.
Exactly. Like think about setting the mood, maybe lighting some candles, putting on some music.
Ooh, I love that. Create a whole vibe.
Right. And that's something Marriage.com touched on too, the importance of ambiance.
It makes a huge difference.
It really does, because when you rush through things, it's easy to lose that sense of connection and sensuality.
So true. Okay, we've talked about communication, connection, setting the mood.
Mm.
But what about the physical stuff?
Right. Getting down to the nitty-gritty.
Exactly. And both WebMD and HIMSS mention these things called pelvic floor exercises, Kegels,
Oh, yeah, Kegels.
which I have to admit I always thought were just a woman thing.
See, that's a common misconception. Oh, yeah, Kegels can benefit everyone.
Interesting. Tell me more.
Well, basically, they strengthen the pelvic floor muscles,
Okay.
which for both men and women can lead to more intense orgasms.
Who doesn't love that?
Right. And for guys specifically, it can also help with things like premature ejaculation.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's something a lot of men struggle with, especially as they get older.
The more you know. Right.
Exactly. Always something new to learn.
Speaking of getting older, we actually got an article sent in specifically for older adults.
Oh, cool. What did it say?
And it had this really interesting tidbit about sex toys.
Okay, like what?
They were saying that toys aren't just for, younger people.
Right, it's for everyone.
Exactly. And it makes sense because as we age, our bodies change.
Absolutely. And, sometimes those changes can make it, well, a little trickier to reach orgasm.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So toys can be a great way to, bridge that gap and keep things pleasurable.
That makes a lot of sense. And speaking of toys, you know that Reddit thread I mentioned?
Yeah.
There was this one toy that kept coming up that I'm kind of curious about.
Oh, yeah. Which one?
It's called a vibrating cock ring.
Oh, a classic.
Can you explain how those work, clinically speaking?
Sure. So basically, it's a ring that's worn around the base of the penis.
Okay.
And as you might have guessed, it vibrates.
Exactly.
And those vibrations can stimulate both the wearer and their partner.
Got it. So it's like a win-win situation.
Exactly. It can help the wearer maintain an erection and also enhance sensation for both of them.
Wow, technology is amazing.
Right. There are so many options out there these days.
It's true. But what happens when, even with all the toys and techniques in the world, you still hit a wall? Like, what about when the spark just seems to fizzle out?
Well, the folks over at Mind Body Green, they had some really great advice for that.
Oh, do tell.
They emphasize the importance of honesty, just being upfront with yourself and your partner.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Like admitting that things have gotten a little stale, that's often the first step to rekindling the flame.
That makes sense, but it can be hard to bring that up, right? Like, what if your partner takes it the wrong way?
Right. But that's where that open communication we talked about earlier comes in.
Ah, so it all ties back together.
Exactly. Because the Marriage.com article, it reminded us that even in long-term relationships, it's normal for desires to change and evolve.
Yeah. We're not robots, right?
Exactly. So creating that safe space to talk about those changes, that's so important.
No more sweeping things under the rug.
Exactly. Address those issues head on.
Now, what about when it's not even just routine, but it's, deeper insecurities that are getting in the way?
Right, because that can definitely happen too.
We also got this article from Medical News Today. It was about sexual frustration, and it talked a lot about how body image can impact intimacy.
Oh, absolutely.
Like for both men and women.
It's so common, to feel self-conscious about our bodies.
Especially as we get older, right?
Exactly, or if we've gone through, major life changes.
Totally. But the article was saying that bottling up those feelings, it can really create a barrier to intimacy.
Oh, for sure.
Whereas talking to your partner about them, even if it feels a little scary, it can actually bring you closer.
Vulnerability is key in any relationship, especially a romantic one.
So true. But even if you're not quite ready to bare your soul about your deepest insecurities, there are still things you can do, right?
Absolutely. Little things can go a long way.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Well, the Marriage.com article had this really great suggestion.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Small romantic gestures throughout the day.
Okay, I like where this is going. So little things to keep the spark alive even when you're not, in the bedroom.
Exactly. Think about it. What did you do in the early days of dating to show you were interested?
Oh, that's a good point.
Right. So maybe it's sending a flirty text message during the day.
Ooh, I like that.
Or maybe it's like a quick touch as you pass each other in the hallway.
Yeah, just a little reminder that you're still, into each other.
Exactly. It's about keeping those sparks flying even when you're busy with everyday life.
And it kind of brings back that element of playfulness we were talking about earlier, right?
Exactly. It's about reminding each other why you fell in love in the first place.
Okay, I'm totally on board with all of this. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Oh, I like this part. Hit us with it.
If your sex life was a movie, would you want to watch it?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right. Think about it. Is it a blockbuster hit? Or is it, a straight to DVD kind of situation?
And if it's not the movie you want to be watching, what can you do to change the script?
Exactly. It's your story, so make it a good one.
I love that.
And remember all those articles we talked about with the tips and advice and stuff?
Right, like the yes, no, maybe.
Yeah. All of that will be linked in the show notes, so don't worry if you missed anything.
Go check it out.
Exactly. Knowledge is power, people. But most importantly, remember to have fun with it.
Yes, enjoy the journey. It's not a race, it's a marathon.
Ooh, I like that analogy. A sexy marathon.
Exactly.
All right, everyone, that's a wrap on this deep dive into spicing things up.
Until next time.
Be good to yourselves and even better to each other.